Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, good morning everyone. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 13. Does anyone remember what we read the other day? Just the main point.
Hare Krishna. We were reading about the Avadut, how Avadut was telling that why he was lying down as a serpent when Prahlad Maharaj approached with his disciples. So there was a conversation going on, and he was just telling about things about how the life has been with him and why. And then I think the main point was that everything belongs um, for devotee. There is no difference in material world and spiritual world, as everything belongs to Krishna.
Everything belongs to Krishna, that's right.
Yeah.
So, and then he's speaking about all, I'm sorry? Yes?
No, you can continue.
No, please. Yes,
No,
please.
you. Okay, yeah. So he was, trying to explain that the real happiness lies in devotional service, and that he has realized that he was looking for it here and there, but then actually it lies in devotional service. And he went on to explain about, even Prabhupada is explaining about the threefold miseries. We heard about that, 4 types of miseries, then 5 different states of miseries, and that if we spiritual soul is usually looking only for the happiness. He's always happy. He's always happy, and that it's only by devotional service he can be happy. And there are Vedic instructions to how to follow and enjoy sex and eating. He was talking about the sex and eating. uh, you can enjoy it, but following it by restrictions, by devotional service, by surrendering to God, because there is where lies our happiness. We have to revive our relationship with Krishna and find happiness within. So we've been hearing about happiness. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Yeah, we heard that the mental concoction, that is thinking we are the body and just doing everything for the body, this will never give us real happiness. So we can get real happiness when we revive our relationship with Krishna.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we are mentally concocting otherwise. Yeah. And then we suffer 3 kinds of miseries he mentions.
Yeah.
What are
Yes.
those?
Adi Adhyatmik, Adi Devi, Adi Bhautik.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. So let's continue. Text 33. Rajatash Chaurata Shatru
Rajadashtrata Shatru
Swajanat Pashupakshita
Swajanat Pashupakshita
Arthibhya Kalata Swasman
Altibhya Kalata Swasma
Nityam Pranarthavadbhayam.
Nityam Pranarthavadbhayam.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Those who are considered materially powerful and rich are always full of anxieties because of governmental laws, thieves and rogues, enemies, family members, animals, birds, persons seeking charity, the inevitable time factor, and even their own selves. Thus, they are invariably afraid. This is what the Brahman is saying. Huh? What we think that if somebody is a very powerful person materially, he's had it, he's made it. What has he got to worry about? He has no worries, isn't that? That's what we think, right? Well, what has he got to worry about? He can just, blink his eyelids or something and he can get everything done. Snap his fingers and he can get everything done. But here the Brahman is saying, no, he's suffering also. The word swasmat means from oneself. Because of attachment for money, the richest person is even afraid of himself. He fears that he may have locked his money in an unsafe manner or might have committed some mistake. Aside from the government and its income tax, and aside from thieves, even a rich man's own relatives are always thinking of how to take advantage of him and take away his money. It's true, you know. It's true. We see that so many times. Sometimes these relatives are described as Svajanaka Dasyu, which means rogues and thieves in the guise of relatives. Therefore, there is no need to accumulate wealth or unnecessarily endeavor for more and more money. The real business of life is to ask, who am I? And to understand oneself. One should understand the position of the living entity in this material world and understand how to return home back to Godhead. So the Brahman is saying that no matter how powerful one is materially, one is still suffering. You know, he's even afraid of his own self because he's not sure of if he has kept his money safe or no, if his relatives are going to take it away, the government or thieves. So Prabhupada is explaining that real business of life is to ask, what is real business of life?
Chanting. Be the servant of the Lord.
Here, some Prabhupada is
Surrender,
saying.
surrender at the
What
lotus
is the
feet.
question that we need to ask?
That we
Who
need to
am
know that
I?
Who
I
am
am.
I?
I
Yeah,
am.
who am I? That's a real business, Prabhupada is saying. For us to understand actually who am I. So then when we ask this question, who am I? Then we will be able to understand, I'm part and parcel of God. So then if I'm part and parcel of God, then I need to go back home, back to God, back to Godhead. Shoka moha bhaya krodha
Shokamoha Bhaya Krodha
raga klebya shramadaya
Raga
Raga
Klebya
Klebhya Sharamate
yanmulasyur nirnam jayat
Yanmula Nirnam Jayat
spraham pranarthayor buddha.
Praham Pranathayu Buddha.
Those in human society who are intelligent should give up the original cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, poverty, and unnecessary labor. The original cause of all these is the desire for unnecessary prestige and money. Here is a difference between Vedic civilization and the modern demoniac civilization. Vedic civilization concerned itself with how to achieve self realization, and for this purpose, one was recommended to have a small income to maintain body and soul together. So Prabhupada is explaining us what's the difference between the Vedic civilization and the modern civilization. Vedic civilization was centered around God consciousness. Uh, the goal of human life to revive our relationship with God, centered around self-realization. Who am I? We just said, who am I? So that's how the Vedic civilization was designed, structured in such a way. The society was divided into Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, and the members of this society would limit their endeavors to meeting their minimum demands. The Brahmanas in particular would have no material desires because the Kshatriyas had to rule the people. It was necessary for them to have money and prestige. But the Vaishyas were satisfied with agricultural produce and milk from the cow, and if by chance there were excess, trade was allowed. The Shudras were also happy, for they would get food and shelter from the three higher classes. So everyone was happy because everyone was doing their duty. The Brahmanas, they were giving guidance, they were involved in studying the scriptures. The Kshatriyas, they were ruling. So of course, when they are ruling, then they need money, they need power, right? And the Vaishyas, they are happy doing their agriculture, they're happy doing their trading if there is excess, and cow protection. And Shudras also happy because their needs are met. They have shelter, they have food, yeah. So they are protected. So in the demoniac civilization of the present day, however, there's no question of Brahmanas or Kshatriyas. They are only so-called workers and a flourishing mercantile class who have no goal in life. According to Vedic civilization, the ultimate perfection of life is to take sannyas. But at the present moment, people do not know why sannyas is accepted. Because of misunderstanding, they think that one accepts sannyas to escape social responsibilities. But one does not accept sannyas to escape from responsibility to society. Generally, one accepts sannyas at the fourth stage of spiritual life. So people may think that, oh, somebody is giving up his duties in society and that's why he's becoming a sannyasi. But that is not why one becomes a sannyasi. One becomes sannyasi to preach the message of God, to wake us up that, oh, take up spiritual life, take up self-realization. When one begins as a brahmachari, then becomes a grahast, a vanaprast, and finally a sannyasi, to take advantage of the duration of one's life by engaging oneself fully in self-realization. Sannyas does not mean begging from door to door to accumulate money for sense gratification. However, because in Kali Yuga, people are more or less prone to sense gratification, immature sannyas is not recommended. So, because one may accept sannyas, but one may not be actually be able to renounce to that degree, you know. So that's why immature sannyas, Prabhupada is saying, is not recommended. Also, it needs training. There has to be some training there, you know. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Nectar of Instruction to Atyahara Prayashascha Prajalpo Niyamagraha Janasangascha Lolyam Cha Sadbir Bhaktir Vinashyati. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievements. So, this is from the Upadeshamrita, which Srila Prabhupada has translated as Nectar of Instruction. This is the second instruction that Srila Rupa Goswami is giving. Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada is giving certain instructions, Upadeshamrita, that what, what, what should be done, what should not be done, so that one can practice devotional life with more ease. So, what are the few things that he's saying? There are 6 in this verse, following, following 6. What's the first one?
Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds.
Yeah. So, means how much is enough we need to do, but don't over endeavor for it. Okay. Then the second one.
Over
Over
endeavoring
endeavor.
for mundane.
Yeah. things that are very difficult. Sometimes something is very difficult, but yet we may just get so into it and say, no, I must do it. I need to do it because we may think it's a matter of my prestige or something. Third,
talking unnecessarily for mundane subject matters.
don't we do that a lot?
Yeah.
I think this one we do quite a bit, right?
True.
Fourth,
Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement.
yeah. And then it still goes on.
Yeah, rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically.
Whimsically, yeah. So means all the rules and regulations in the scriptures that are there, we need to follow them for spiritual advancement. Because sometimes what happens is we just get so involved in them that we take them as ordinary rituals, without understanding what is the reason, why am I doing what I'm doing. They are all for spiritual advancement, all so that we can revive our love for Krishna. And then the fifth one.
Associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna
Then
consciousness.
how to do? We can't say, hey, you're not Krishna conscious, I can't talk to you.
Mhm.
Right? We can't do that. So, because for all practical reasons, we are mostly surrounded by people who are not Krishna conscious, like for our day to day activities, also, right?
Yeah.
So, what we can do is associating means taking instruction from them. So, we should take instructions from the devotees or reveal our hearts to the devotees. And of course, with everyone else, we deal with them as it's needed. Yeah, that's what is said. Associate, like taking instructions regarding spiritual matters, should be done from devotees. That is real association. That's how we say, right? Hearing and chanting in the association of devotees, discussing spiritual subjects in the association of devotees. Like that.
Maybe not getting carried away, influenced by
Yes.
their
Yes.
talks, right?
Yes.
Mm.
That's right. Yes. That's what it is. Yeah. Not getting carried away by their talks. Okay. And what's the sixth one?
Being greedy for mundane achievements.
Yeah. Sometimes it may happen, we may say, no, I need to do this. I need to do that because why? Just because we feel that, yeah, I need to do it for some prestige or being too greedy to get more and more fame, maybe. Okay. A sannyasi should have an institution meant to preach Krishna consciousness. He need not accumulate money for himself. We recommend that as soon as money accumulates in a Krishna consciousness movement, 50% of it should be invested in printing books and 50% for expenditures, especially in establishing centers all over the world. Sorry. The managers of the Krishna consciousness movement should be extremely cautious in regard to this point. Otherwise, money will be the cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, material attachment, material poverty, and unnecessary hard work. When I was alone in Vrindavan, I never attempted to construct mathas or temples. Rather, I was fully satisfied with the small amount of money I could gather by selling back to Godhead, and thus I would provide for myself and also print the literature. When I went to foreign countries, I lived according to the same principle. But when Europeans and Americans began to give money profusely, I started temples and deity worship. The same principle should still be followed. Whatever money is collected should be spent for Krishna and not a farthing for sense gratification. This is the Bhagavad principle. So here Prabhupada is giving an instruction to the leaders, to the managers in the Krishna consciousness movement, that whatever money is being collected by the temples, 50% should go for book distribution, printing more books, and 50% to maintain the temples and construct more temples. Why? To expand the preaching. So means both. By printing books is also to expand the preaching, construct new temples also to expand the preaching. Prabhupada is saying when he was in Vrindavan, he had no money. He was just by himself. So at that time, he didn't make any temples, but he was still printing the Back to Godhead, and he was distributing that. And then later, when he got money, then he started making temples, but book distribution was given priority. So it's being distributed half and half. Half for book distribution, half for temples. Any questions, comments? Okay. Madhukara Mahasarpo
Madhukara Mahasarpo
Lokesmin no Gurutamo
Lokesmin no Guruttamo
Vairagyam Paritosham Cha
Vairagyam Paritosham Cha
Prapta Yach Chikshaya Vayam.
Prapta Yachakshaya Vayam.
The bee and the python are two excellent spiritual masters who give us exemplary instructions regarding how to be satisfied by collecting only a little and how to stay in one place and not move. Viraga sarva kamebhya
Viraga Sarva Kamebhya
shikshito me madhuvratat.
Shikshito Me Madhu Vratat
Krichraptam madhubadvitam
Richraptam Madhuvadvittam
hatvapi anyo haret patem.
Hatvapi Anyo Haretvatim.
From the bumblebee, I have learned to be unattached to accumulating money. For although money is as good as honey, anyone can kill its owner and take it away. We have heard, right? So much money is as good as honey. Here, the Brahman is saying this. It's written in Bhagavatam. The honey gathered in the comb is taken away by force. Therefore, one who accumulates money should realize that he may be harassed by the government or by thieves or even killed by enemies. Especially in this age of Kali Yuga, it is said that instead of protecting the money of the citizens, the government itself will take away the money with the force of law. The learned Brahman had therefore decided that he should not accumulate any money. One should own as much as he immediately needs. There's no need to keep a big balance at hand, along with the fear that it may be plundered by the government or by thieves. So what the Brahman is saying, what Prabhupada is explaining, that we should have sufficient, how much is needed, but over accumulating is just causing unnecessary anxiety for ourselves, because anyway it may be taken away. So how much is needed, that needs to get. So aniha paritushtatma
Aniha Paritushtatma
yadra chopanatad aham
Yadrichopanatad Aham
no chechaye bahav ahani
No Cheche Bahav Ahani
mahahir iva sat bhavan.
Mahahir Ivasatvavam.
I do not endeavor to get anything but am satisfied with whatever is achieved in its own way. If I do not get anything, I am patient and unagitated like a python and lie down in this way for many days. One should learn detachment from the bumblebees, for they collect drops of honey here and there and keep it in their honeycomb. But then someone comes and by force takes all the honey away, leaving the bumblebees with nothing. Therefore, one should learn from the bumblebee not to keep more money than one needs. Similarly, one should learn from the python to stay in one place for many, many days without food and then eat only if something comes in its own way. Thus, the learned Brahman gave instructions gained from two creatures, namely the bumblebee and the python. So the Brahmana is saying he has learnt this from the bee and the python. The bee is collecting, collecting and collecting and collecting. So busy, busy as the bee. Collects, collects, collects. Then finally one man goes, takes away all the honey then. So the Brahman is saying, what's the use of over endeavoring? And the python, he stays in one place. Whatever comes, he eats. So Brahman says, that's why I stay in one place. And whatever I get, I eat. Kvachid alpam, kvachid bhuri.
Kvachid alpam, kvachid bhuri.
Bhunjenam svadva asvadva.
Bhunjenam swadva asadvava.
Kvachid bhuri gunopetam.
Kvachid bhuri gunapetam.
Gunahinam uta kvachid.
Gunahinam uta kvachid.
Shraddhayoparratam kwapi.
Shraddhayo paratam kwapi.
Kadachin manavarjitam.
Kadachin manavarjitam.
Bhunje bhukt vata kasmimschid.
Punje bhuktavatha kasminched.
Divanaktam yadrichaya.
Divanaktam yadrichaya.
Sometimes I eat a very small quantity and sometimes a great quantity. Sometimes the food is very palatable and sometimes it is stale. Sometimes prasad is offered with great respect and sometimes food is given neglectfully. Sometimes I eat during the day and sometimes at night. Thus I eat what is easily available. Shaumam dukulam ajinam.
Shaunam dukulam ajinam.
Chiram valkalam evava.
Chiram valkalam evava.
Vase nyad api sampraptam.
Vasenyad api sampraptam.
Dishta bhuk tushta dhir aham.
Dishta bhuk dishtadiraham.
To cover my body, I use whatever is available, whether it be linen, silk, cotton, bark, or deerskin, according to my destiny, and am fully satisfied and unagitated. Kvachik chaye taropasthe,
Vachichai tarupaste.
trina parnashma bhasmasu,
Parnashma bhasmasi.
kvachit prasada paryanke,
Vachit prasada paryanke.
kashipo va parechaya.
Kasipo parechaya.
Sometimes I lie on the surface of the earth, sometimes on leaves, grass, or stone, sometimes on a pile of ashes, or sometimes, by the will of others, in a palace on a first class bed with pillows. The learned Brahmana's description indicates different types of births, for one lies down according to one's body. Sometimes one takes birth as an animal, and sometimes as a king. When he takes birth as an animal, he must lie down on the ground. And when he takes birth as a king or a very rich man, he is allowed to lie in first class rooms and huge palaces decorated with beds and other furniture. Such facilities are not available, however, at the sweet will of the living entity. Rather, they are available by the supreme will, parechaya, or by the arrangement of Maya. So the Brahman is saying that depends which body I have gotten, that's where I'm lying down. Body of a king lying on a very soft bed, soft pillows, beautifully decorated. Body of animal lying on the hard ground. And this is happening by the Lord, by the will of the Supreme Lord. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.61, Ishvara Sarva Bhutana Riddeshe Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudhani Mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjun, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. The living entity, according to his material desires, receives different types of bodies, which are nothing but machines offered by material nature, according to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the will of the Supreme, one must take different bodies with different means for lying down. So we can see that he is very detached. He's accepting whatever is coming his way as the will of the Supreme Lord. You know, he's saying sometimes I have a big feast, and sometimes I don't get anything to eat. Sometimes the food is very good, sometimes it's not so good. But he's accepting whatever is coming his way as the will of the Supreme Lord. You know, instead of what we do when we like something, we get too overjoyed, too excited. We don't like something, we get too dejected, you know, or we may crib or we may rant. But he's like, okay, accepting whatever is happening, you know. He's saying, okay, I know it's happening by the will of the Supreme Lord. So he's satisfied in that way. Did you all want to add anything?
Hare Krishna.
Hare
So,
Krishna.
what was the answer that Prahlad Maharaj, had for him, that how come you are heavy, you
Yeah.
are fat?
Yeah.
So,
So here he's just saying that he's just satisfied with whatever he's getting. He's saying some days I'm eating a lot, some days not. What Prahlad Maharaj he's so for us to hear of how you're trying to understand what is the lesson for us, right?
yeah,
So we are trying to understand what he's saying. He's saying, don't endeavor, be satisfied with what you're getting by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord. You know, because if we over endeavor, like the bee is over endeavoring, that's why it's called busy as the bee, over collecting, but it just all goes away. So he's trying to say is be detached. Sometimes it's going to be good, sometimes it's going to be bad. We are taking different bodies. Uh, so be satisfied with what we are getting. And he did say earlier that based on our activities, we are either going to go to the animal life, or we are going to go to this liberation, or we will go to demigods, to the planet of the demigods. So he's basically giving a lot of knowledge of how we should act, of how we should be satisfied, not over endeavor. At least this is what I get from it till now.
Yes, this is what he's saying.
Yeah, because he's
He,
saying
he
anyway,
has,
this world is a world of misery.
yeah, he's got the distaste and now he doesn't want to endeavor anymore.
Yeah,
He has surrendered completely.
yeah. And then he's speaking of self-realization.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's saying use this life for self-realization. Don't just endeavor for material things. So this is what this Brahman is speaking about. That work for self-realization. Is that okay?
yeah, only like, because like Prahlad Maharaj was like amazed, like how, like, you are a sannyasi and how come you are fat? So I was just
Yeah.
wondering, like, but I guess like what he said, now there are days that I get food
Yeah.
and there are days I don't get, and he's not moving. I mean, he's like a python, right? One place. So there's
Yeah.
no activity, right? Body activity. So probably that's the reason, right?
Yeah, maybe. And maybe that day he got a lot to eat. And
Mm,
then when there is nothing to eat for many days, then he would become skinny again then.
yeah.
Yeah. So it was, I think it's more like Prahlad Maharaj is giving an opening because so that we can hear the knowledge that this Brahman
Mm,
has.
that's it.
Yeah. Because he understands that this Brahman is a very knowledgeable person. So he wants us to hear this knowledge.
Yeah.
Because we get too affected, right? With the happiness, with the distress. We get so happy, so affected, this is very good, so excited. We get so dejected, this is very bad. So the Brahman is giving good knowledge that, this material world is just full of
Yeah.
misery and you work towards self-realization instead of
Yeah.
endeavoring too much for material things. Take how much ever you need and engage your time and energy in cultivating spiritual knowledge.
True. And we get attached to our body also.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, it should
yeah,
look good. It should not be like, yeah,
yeah, yeah. But
it's
well, we
true.
have to maintain our bodies,
We have to maintain.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
but yeah, we have to maintain, but we tend to overdo it, right?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll spend hours and hours, and only the center point will be the body. So,
Mm,
but we need to understand that, how much I need to do, that this is needed, but more than this is just too much.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. Okay, let's stop here for today. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening and enjoying it.